Hello there. Today we are going to discuss about the reasons of why. Why is it that we seek God? Why is it that we seek enlightenment, the awakening? What is it that draws us towards it? Towards this greater power. Well, you can represent it in different ways, but after all, it's all about us. After all, isn't that why we pray to God anyways? For our own self? God is great. We are limited. Isn't it so? Don't we believe that there is some greater power beyond us? The only reason that we seek God is because we constantly see creation all around us since birth, and to find that answer, we look back in the history to find the Creator. As our thoughts are limiting to the perception of our five senses and the dimensions that we live in, we create something that is beyond us, but still something that can be described based on what we know. Our description of God is often where we come from. If white people create God, the God is white. If brown people create God, the God is brown. Isn't it so? So what we define as God is usually an exaggerated version of ourselves and still limited to our own perception. Question then is, why do we believe in God or this greater power? Why do we look for enlightened beings or pray to the incarnations of God? We believe in it because we think it's the solution to our problem. We look for solutions to our physical worldly problems of health, wealth, happiness. We seek that this greater power, whether it is within us or in form of an object, person, or a deity, at the end of the day, it is about our own well-being that we seek through God. I'll give you a personal story on how and what caused the change within my life. For most of my adult life, until recently, I was an inner atheist. Being brought up in a religious family, mainly my mother, I never disrespected the rituals around me, but never actually took part in it or tried to understand the mysteries, the meanings, or the stories behind it. For me, it was like, that's not me. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in living human beings calling themselves God, and so on. I didn't believe in God because I thought I couldn't relate to it. I couldn't relate to the idea of someone sitting in the cloud and managing each and everything. For me, that wasn't just real. I didn't believe in God, but I was a true believer in laws of attraction, which in essence is, if you desire something strongly enough and pursue it, then it can manifest itself into reality. I had tried that for almost 8 years in my life after reading a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. For the past 3 years, I had aced it and managed to achieve all the riches: house, car, career, dream city, recognition that I ever wanted. In my mind, to believe in God was something external, and my belief in greater universe or within myself was internal. This was mainly due to the traditional things we hear growing up, without clear definition or research behind it. This one time I was having a conversation with my mom about how believing in myself and persisting helped me achieve everything in my life so early. To my surprise, my mum said the same thing on how she wished certain things and received it through help of God. For me, until that moment, these were two separate entities and paths. But that moment, I realized it had the same approach and the result in terms of how we went about it. Whether it was me looking within and believing in myself, or my mom looking at God and believing in the greater God. At that time, I still didn't think much of it, going about my daily routine life. However, post that, I had a devastating, life-changing incident in my personal life, which changed all the perspectives, all the things that I strongly believed in. All of that just crumbled in front of my eyes. Everything that I've been working towards for years and years with so much desire, passion, was about to crumble in mere moments. It felt as if the whole life was pointless and a bleep in wider perspective of things. I have pretty much wasted my whole life on petty physical objects, none of which was really worth it or even permanent. What was it that I was searching for? What was it that I was running after? All these questions killed me, depressed me, saddened me. I was weak. I was weak. My mind was weak. I had no personal strength at that moment to accept or reject things in life. In that very moment, my ego was so damaged that I surrendered. Surrendered to the moment, to anything and everything which was there. Accepting it all and accepting it for what it was and not for what I wanted it to be. Not to fight it, regret it, but just to let it be. And that was so powerful. To let go was so powerful. And this gave me some further strength to pick up a book. Because that's where I go every time I don't have any answers to. I pick up a book. This time I picked up a book which the Apple founder Steve Jobs recommended on his funeral. Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. Not sure where that book came from, what inspired me to pick up that book, but I did. And as my mind was so weak in those moments and had surrendered to the moment, I wasn't questioning like I usually did with my parents about what is God, why is it God, why should I believe in it. I had just surrendered to the moment. So anything I read in the book was read with an open mind, letting go of any filters created by mind or anything that was shielding it previously from thinking beyond, questioning things beyond. And without questioning whether it was right or wrong, do I believe in it or not believe in it, I just listened. For the very moment, those moments, I just listened. And rather than perceive, I just listened with all my attention. All of a sudden, it was a whole new world that opened up to me. A world of possibilities, world of curiosity and questions. Nothing from that scope felt like a boundary. Neither the place I was born in, nor the religion, nor the things I believed in. Somehow, I had let go of those things. I was looking at those things from a distance. I didn't recognize myself through those things. None of it really mattered, as through detaching myself from those labels world had given to me since my birth, I became free. I was able to see the common themes between everything, the singularity of everything. Most of all, it helped me understand what's temporary and what's eternal, what's important and what's not, how to get rid of this inner suffering. This this event led into a dominoes effect, which led me to read over hundreds of books on different religion, history, science, spirituality in space of mere months. There is one quote and one story through which I would like to start this journey. The quote goes, "Live your physical or the material life as if it's ending tomorrow, and live your spiritual life as if it's eternal." To explain this better, I'll give you a story from Vivekananda, Swami Vivekananda. What does it mean? Everything in life, as we know, it is temporary. You have all heard of that rich man in Rome who learned one day that he had only £1,000,000 of his property left. He said, "What shall I do tomorrow?" and forthwith committed suicide. £1,000,000 was poverty for him. That is joy. What is joy and what is sorrow? It is a vanishing quantity, continuously vanishing. Great actors like Robbie Williams, that's the end of the story. Great actors like Robbie Williams who committed suicide. There are plenty of examples like that. People full of riches but full of misery. As how much money is enough? How many properties are enough? How much fame and recognition is enough? In fact, how do you even define enough? There is one quote that comes to my mind. Live your physical or material life as if it's ending tomorrow, and live your spiritual life as if it's eternal. There is a known story of this rich man in Rome who learned one day that he had only about £1,000,000 of his property left. He said, "What shall I do tomorrow?" And out of that fear and worry, he committed suicide. £1,000,000 was poverty for him. What is joy and what is sorrow? It is vanishing quantity, continuously vanishing. Great actors in our times like Robin Williams committed suicide, and there are plenty of examples like that, full of riches but full of misery. As how much money is enough? How many properties are enough? How much fame and recognition is enough? In fact, how do you even define enough? The word itself is ambiguous. As any number of goal you decide, once you get there, the number will change. The events around it will change. Even if it doesn't change, you would have evolved. Your desires would have evolved. You would have changed, grown out of it. More importantly, even if you get there, you know none of it is permanent. There is nothing in this life that we know of is permanent. The beauty of this birth, in this moment, it's not the end goal, but it's the journey, and to live in it the best way possible. The biggest example of this is sun and moon. The cycle of day and night for millions of years. That cycle is happening, showing us what has begun has to end. What counts is the journey and what you make of it. In current times, we don't believe in heaven or hell, and we believe in living life in the moment based on that quote, which often is misrepresented. As if you're going to die tomorrow, would you spend 5 years in a mall buying something like an iPhone? Or on your computer watching a silly YouTube video? Or fighting with your loved ones? Or you rather go meet and love your close ones? Share gratitude for everything that we have been given and help others, preparing yourself for what's to come. Take this as an experiment for yourself. Just try it for a day. See the impact, observe it, and learn from it. These are the small experiments we will talk about in this podcast on how we experiment within ourselves to find the greater good within us, and within us we'll find the greater good in the society. In today's busy life, we run after expensive things, busy careers, big cars, and house, while forgetting to enjoy it at the same time. We become the slave of the big house, the big car, and the big dreams that we hope for. Those same things that was supposed to give us joy turns into our worst nightmares that we despise it. This way of living is not different than in early days, doing all the right things now, hoping for heaven after life. We just letting go of our today sometimes, thinking of a happier tomorrow. The happier moment is just now, as the only thing that is real is your present moment, this moment. Everything else is nothing but a memory of the past or imagination of the future. So choose your actions wisely and make decisions being fully aware, without any preconceived notions of the past or the future. Then there will be no need for hindsight. Answer to this is not stop everything or anything extreme. Key is to understand our inner self better by training our mind, understanding ourselves, listening to ourselves to unlock its full potential. As often things we get frustrated or feel uncomfortable by around us is nothing but As often things we get frustrated or feel uncomfortable by around ourselves are the things we are uncomfortable by with ourselves. It's the deep within. These are often our inner fears surfacing, causing unease and coming out as anger, even though these are the flaws within us. So stick with us, keep an open mind, and break free. To understand and fix ourselves, first we need to start by asking the right questions, which would lead to liberation from misery rather than thrust us deeper into it. Here, I'll share a beautiful story from Dhammapada, the holy book of the Buddhist, about conversation between a curious disciple and Buddha. The Buddha's penetrating insight attracted many intellectuals, one of whom was Malunkyaputta, grew more and more frustrated as Buddha failed to settle certain basic metaphysical questions. He wouldn't answer those questions to the disciple. Finally, he went to Buddha with a bit of frustration and confronted him with the following list. Blessed one, there are theories which you have left unexplained and set aside unanswered, whether the world is eternal or not eternal, whether it is finite or infinite, whether the soul and the body are the same or different, whether a person who has attained nirvana exists after death or does not, or whether perhaps both exist and does not exist, or neither exists nor does not. The fact that Blessed One has not explained these matters neither please me nor suits me. If the Blessed One will not explain this to me, I will give up my spiritual discipline and return to the life of a layman. Buddha replied gently, Malunkyaputta, when you took the spiritual life, did I ever promise you I would answer these questions? Malunkyaputta was probably already sorry about his outburst, But it was too late. No, blessed one, you never did. Buddha replied, why do you think that is? Malunkeputra replied, blessed one, I haven't got the slightest idea. Buddha calmly replied, suppose Malunkeputra, that a man has been wounded by a poisoned arrow and his friends and family are about to call a doctor. Wait, he says, I will not let this arrow be removed until I have learned the caste of a man who has shot me. I have to know how tall he is, what family he comes from, where they live, what kind of wood his bow is made from, what Fletcher made his arrows. When I know these things, you can proceed to take the arrow out and give me an antidote for its poison. What would you think of such a man? Malunkeputra replied, he would be a fool, blessed one, replied Malunkeputra shamefully. His questions have nothing to do with getting arrow out of his body, and he would die before they were even answered. Buddha, with a gentle smile, replied, similarly, Malunkeputra, I do not teach whether the world is eternal or not eternal, whether it's finite or infinite, whether the soul and the body are same or different, whether a person who has attained nirvana exists after death or does not, or whether perhaps he both exists and does not exist, or neither exists nor does not. I teach how to remove the arrow. I'll repeat this line, it's so beautiful. I teach how to remove the arrow, the truth of suffering, its origin, its end, and the Noble Eightfold Path.